You want to change your life in 2025, then listen carefully. Most people are so addicted to being seen, being heard, being noticed that they've lost the ability to actually build anything that lasts. They trade peace for attention, purpose for distraction, power for applause. And here's the truth. Attention doesn't build wealth. It doesn't build character. It doesn't build destiny. Silence does. Focus does. When you stop explaining yourself to people who don't matter, you reclaim hours of your life. You reclaim your energy. And in that silence, you build leverage. You stop being a performer for the crowd, and you become a creator of your future. That's the shift. Most people think emotional detachment means being cold. No. It means you are no longer moved by opinions that have no weight. You don't flinch at gossip. You don't waste your breath defending yourself. That's not arrogance. That's clarity. You know who you are, and you know where you're going. The loudest ones in the room, they're signaling weakness. They're screaming for approval because they can't carry the silence of being misunderstood. But the strong, they don't need to announce. They build, they demonstrate, they let the results speak, and results don't whisper. Here's the Verley. Every argument, every unnecessary reaction, every attempt to prove yourself, that's energy debt, that's focus debt, and debt compounds. But so does discipline. Every time you choose silence over reaction, you're making a deposit into your purpose. You're storing up clarity, focus, and power that others can't see. And let me tell you something. You don't lose power when you detach. You gain it. Because the moment you no longer need validation, you become untouchable. When someone can't trigger you, they can't control you. And when they can't control you, you've already won. Focus is subtraction, not addition. It's cutting out what doesn't serve you. It's deleting the noise, ignoring the opinions, and refusing to be dragged into battles that don't advance your mission. That's the discipline that creates transformation. Confidence is quiet. It's the person who doesn't need to explain. It's the person who just walks into the room and everyone feels the presence without a word being said. You want to win in 2025. Stop telling people what you're going to do. Stop broadcasting your every move. Build in silence, execute in silence, and let the weight of your results make the noise. The truth is, your life expands when you stop entertaining distractions. The more you subtract, the more room you make for purpose. And purpose is magnetic. It draws the right people, the right opportunities, the right future. But only if you're disciplined enough to focus on yourself and stay silent. Do you want me to now expand this full speech to around 20-25 minutes worth of delivery with natural pacing, storytelling, and examples? Or do you prefer to keep it at this short, power-packed version? True strength isn't about how loudly you can prove yourself to others. It's about how deeply you can master yourself when no one is watching. Most people confuse validation with power, thinking that if enough people cheer for them, follow them, or recognize their name, then they've made it. But real power doesn't come from the outside. It comes from the inside. If you need applause to feel strong, you're fragile. The moment people stop clapping, you collapse. Self-mastery means you don't depend on anyone's approval to keep moving forward. It's the discipline of keeping your promises to yourself, regardless of who notices or who doesn't. Think about it. How many people do you know who look successful? Because they post every move online, but behind the scenes, they're drowning in inconsistency, insecurity, and chaos. They built their image on being seen, but they never built themselves. And when the spotlight fades, so does their confidence. On the other hand, the person who quietly sharpens their skills, disciplines their mind, controls their emotions, and keeps stacking small wins daily, this person is unstoppable. They aren't dependent on noise. They're powered by inner order. Mastery isn't glamorous. It's waking up when you said you would. It's finishing the work you promised yourself you'd do. It's resisting the urge to prove your worth through arguments, posts, or public displays. It's choosing growth in silence, knowing that the results will eventually be undeniable. That's strength. It's not for show. It's for substance. And when you build from that place, no one can take it away, because no one gave it to you. That's why the strongest people are the ones you rarely see proving anything. They've already proven it to themselves, and that's enough. Would you like me to now expand Key Point John to 300 words in the same style? Silence is not weakness. It's control. The person who knows how to stay quiet when everyone else is shouting carries the greatest advantage. Most people reveal too much, their fears, their plans, their insecurities, their frustration. They think talking is power, but in reality, every word you give away is leverage. You lose. The moment you explain yourself to people who don't matter, you hand them the ability to judge, question, and even sabotage you. Silence is a shield. It protects your energy, your vision, and your strategy from being diluted by noise. When you speak less, people start paying more attention. They wonder what you're thinking, what you're planning, and why you're not reacting. That mystery creates strength, because uncertainty always makes others cautious. The loudest ones are predictable. You know their next move, their feelings, their opinions. But the quiet ones, they're dangerous, because you can't read them. And when no one can read you, no one can control you. Silence also forces you to master patience. In silence, you learn to observe instead of react, to think before you move, to calculate instead of guess. Most people burn their opportunities because they couldn't resist proving themselves in the moment. They wanted to win the argument today, but they lost the bigger game tomorrow. The silent person holds back, knowing the real victory isn't in being right. It's in being effective. The less you reveal, the more powerful your actions become. Every result you produce carries more weight, because no one saw it coming. And that's the essence of real power. Letting your execution speak so loudly that it's become unnecessary. Silence is not emptiness, it's strategy. It's wisdom. It's the discipline of keeping your power until it's time to use it. Would you like me to expand Key Point Gen 3 into 300 words in the same deep, impactful tone? Focusing on yourself is the ultimate form of leverage, because it takes your energy away from distractions and places it on the only thing you can truly control: your own growth. Most people spread themselves too thin, chasing after validation, arguments, gossip, and approval. They dilute their power because they're busy keeping score of what others are doing instead of stacking wins for themselves. Distraction is a kind of debt. You pay for it with your time, your peace, and your potential. And once that debt builds up, it steals years from your life. When you focus on yourself, you reclaim that energy. Every hour you don't waste explaining yourself. You can invest in building skills, strengthening your body, disciplining your mind, and advancing your purpose. That's leverage, turning minutes into mastery, days into momentum, and years into destiny. The person who knows how to concentrate deeply on their own lane always outpaces the one who's chasing everything else. Distraction scatters, focus compounds. Think about it. When you give your attention to drama or comparison, you're handing over the sharpest weapon you have, your focus. But when you keep it on yourself, you grow in silence, and growth in silence multiply. People may not notice at first, but eventually the gap between who you are and who they are becomes impossible to ignore. Focusing on yourself isn't selfish, it's strategic. Because when you master yourself, you naturally elevate everything you touch. But if you let distractions drain you, you'll always live in reaction instead of creation. The strongest leverage in life is the ability to direct all your resources, your time, your energy, your attention into building yourself. That's how you create results, so undeniable that the noise around you becomes irrelevant. Would you like me to continue with Key Point Gen 4 in the same expanded style? Emotional detachment, often misunderstood as being cold or indifferent, but in truth, it's about clarity. It's the ability to see a situation for what it is, without being consumed by it. When you're overly attached, your judgment becomes clouded. You react out of impulse. You take things personally, and you waste energy on emotions that don't serve your progress. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop being controlled. You still feel, but you don't let those feelings dictate your direction. When you detach, you create space between stimulus and response. Someone insults you, and instead of firing back, you observe. Someone doubts you, and instead of defending yourself, you stay silent. That space is where power lives. Because the person who cannot be triggered cannot be manipulated. Detachment is strength, not weakness. It's not that you don't experience emotion. It's that emotion no longer hijacks your mission.
Clarity comes when you step back and view life without being tangled in the drama of every moment. Instead of obsessing over why someone doesn't like you, you detach and ask, does this even matter to my purpose? Instead of letting anger drive your decisions, you detach and let wisdom guide your response. That shift transforms everything.
The world is filled with people chasing temporary highs and emotional validation. They live like slaves to their feelings, never realizing that freedom comes from mastery. When you detach, you operate from a higher level of consciousness. You stop reacting to life and start directing it. That is the real advantage. Because when you are no longer moved by noise, criticism, or praise, you finally have the clarity to move with precision toward what actually matters. Do you want me to now expand Key Point Gen 5 into 300 words with the same intensity and depth? Every response you choose not to give is energy conserved for what actually matters. Most people burn their strength in arguments, debates, and endless attempts to prove themselves right. They spend their days defending, explaining, and reacting to opinions that don't move their lives forward. And at the end of it all, they wonder why they feel drained and unproductive. The truth is simple. You only have so much energy in a day. And every word you waste on meaningless battles is energy stolen from your mission. Restraint is power. The ability to hold your tongue when someone provokes you is not weakness. It's discipline. By not engaging, you keep your fire for the things that actually deserve it. Your goals, your vision, your growth. People who react to everything are like leaking containers. No matter how much potential they have, it pours out in all directions and leaves them empty. But those who respond selectively, or sometimes not at all, channel their energy like a laser. They move with force and precision because they refuse to scatter themselves. Not responding doesn't mean you didn't notice. It means you've measured the cost of your attention and realized the price was too high. You don't owe anyone your explanation, your anger, or your defense. The only thing you owe yourself is progress. Every time you choose silence over reaction, you're stacking compound interest in the bank of discipline. And over time, that discipline becomes an unstoppable force. When you stop wasting words on people who don't matter, you become sharper, calmer, and more focused. You conserve your power for the work that actually transforms your life. That's how the strongest move, not by reacting to everything, but by reserving their energy for the battles that matter. Would you like me to carry this same momentum and expand key point Gen 6 into 300 words? Confidence doesn't need a microphone. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't broadcast. It doesn't beg to be noticed. Real confidence is demonstrated through action, through results, through the consistency of what you do when nobody's clapping. In fact, the louder someone claims to be confident, the more fragile they usually are, because true strength doesn't need to convince, it simply exists. The presence of someone who has mastered themselves speaks louder than any words could. When you walk into a room and you know who you are, you don't need to explain it. People can feel it. They sense the discipline in the way you carry yourself, the calm in the way you move, and the certainty in the way you speak. Only when it's necessary, that kind of confidence can't be faked because it's built through repetition, sacrifice, and self-respect. It comes from keeping promises to yourself, not from hoping others believe in you. The mistake most people make is thinking confidence is about volume, about being the loudest voice in the crowd. But noise doesn't equal power. Noise is often insecurity dressed up as bravado. Real confidence is silence combined with results. It's doing the work long enough that the evidence speaks for itself. You don't have to tell people you're capable. Your consistency shows them. The beauty of quiet confidence is that it's unshakable. Opinions don't move you, criticism doesn't break you, and praise doesn't inflate you, because you weren't built on external validation. You were built on internal standards. That's why the most powerful person in the room is rarely the one demanding attention. It's the one who doesn't need it. Confidence is not in what you say. It's in what you've proven to yourself. First, and to the world second. Would you like me to continue by expanding key point 97 into 300 words in the same style? The loudest people are almost always the weakest because noise is a substitute for substance. When someone has nothing solid within themselves, they shout, exaggerate, and demand to be seen. It's a survival mechanism. If they're not loud, they fear they'll be invisible. But here's the truth. Strength doesn't need to be advertised. The strongest people move quietly because their results are too heavy to be ignored. They don't need to convince you of their value. They let their life, their work, and their discipline speak louder than any words could. When you see someone constantly broadcasting every achievement, every move, every intention, it usually means the achievement isn't strong enough to stand on its own. That's why they decorate it with noise, but real power is undeniable, and undeniable things don't need decoration. A storm doesn't announce itself. It just arrives, and you feel its force. The same goes for people of true strength. They arrive, they execute, and you feel their impact without them ever needing to raise their voice. Weakness hides behind attention seeking because attention feels like validation, but attention doesn't equal respect, and it definitely doesn't equal power. Respect comes from consistency, from the ability to deliver again and again without needing applause. That's why the quiet ones are the most dangerous. They're too busy building to be distracted by performance. By the time you realize their strength, it's too late, because they've already created momentum that can't be stopped. Noise fades, applause dies, but results endure. And that's why the strongest people don't waste time trying to be loud. They understand that silence multiplies power. And when it's finally time to reveal what they've been building, the weight of their results makes all the noise for them. Would you like me to expand key point 98 next into 300 words with the same energy and tone? Spiritual discipline is choosing growth over noise, peace over pride, and alignment over approval. Most people are enslaved to their impulses. They need to speak when silence would serve them better. They need to prove when detachment would protect them. They need to be noticed when obscurity would give them the freedom to build. Discipline flips that. It teaches you that not every battle is worth fighting, not every thought is worth expressing, and not every reaction is worth giving. Spiritual discipline is the quiet filter that removes the unnecessary, so only what aligns with your higher purpose remains. It's not about suppressing yourself, it's about mastering yourself. You feel anger, but you don't let it dictate your words. You feel pride, but you don't let it push you into foolish decisions. You feel the urge to chase validation. But you anchor yourself in the truth that purpose is greater than perception. That spiritual authority, the ability to rule over your emotions instead of being ruled by them. The undisciplined person leaks power. They're quick to argue, quick to prove, quick to justify. And every time they do, they hand their strength over to forces that don't deserve it. The disciplined person, however, conserves that strength. They withdraw from noise not out of weakness, but because they know their energy is sacred and their mission is costly. They refuse to waste it on distractions. Peace is not found by accident. It's chosen daily through discipline. Pride wants to win arguments, but peace wants to win the future. And when you consistently choose peace, clarity follows. Spiritual discipline aligns your actions with your purpose. And over time, that alignment creates unshakable momentum. You become untouchable. Not because you fight harder, but because you fight less and grow more. Would you like me to move on and expand key points in 9 into 300 words in the same voice? Purpose expands when you begin to subtract everything that doesn't serve it. Most people think growth is about adding more commitments, more connections, more opportunities. But the truth is, most of those more are just clutter. They dilute your energy, scatter your focus, and keep you stuck in cycles of busyness that don't move you closer to your mission. Subtraction is the hidden key. Every time you cut away what doesn't matter, you create more space for what does. It's not always easy because subtraction feels like loss at first. Letting go of relationships that drain you, habits that waste your time, or environments that weaken you feels uncomfortable. But on the other side of that discomfort is freedom. You can't carry everything and still run fast. The heavier the baggage, the slower the progress. When you subtract, you start traveling light and your purpose accelerates. Think about it. A sculptor doesn't add to the stone to reveal the masterpiece. He chips away at everything that doesn't belong. Your life is no different. The version of you capable of living fully in your purpose is already there. It's just buried under layers of distraction, fear, pride, and attachment. The more you subtract those, the clearer and stronger your purpose becomes. The reason most people never step fully into their calling is because they're unwilling to release what feels familiar, even if it's holding them back. But clarity always requires sacrifice. If you want expansion, you must create cess. And space comes from subtraction. Purpose grows in simplicity, in focus, in the disciplined refusal to carry what doesn't align. The less you hold, the more you rise. Would you like me to now expand key point on 10 into 300 words with the same depth and flow? The one who controls their tongue and their attention controls their future. Most people fail not because they lack talent or opportunity, but because they can't master these two things. They speak when they should stay silent, scattering gores that weaken their credibility. They give their attention to distractions, draining their energy on things that don't matter. Over time, both habits steal their power. Words and focus are currencies. Spend them recklessly, and you stay broke in every area of life. Guard them, and they compound into influence, wisdom, and results. When you learn to control your tongue, you stop giving people free access to your emotions. You no longer explain yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. You don't waste time defending your worth because your actions do the talking. Restraint is power. Every word you hold back is evidence that you value direction over reaction. The person who speaks only when necessary commands more respect than the one who fills silence with noise. Attention works the same way. Whatever you feed with your focus grows. Most people starve their purpose because they're feeding gossip, arguments, and distractions instead. But when you aim your attention like a weapon, deliberate, precise, and consistent, you cut through obstacles faster than anyone else. Focused attention is the fuel behind every transformation. Together, controlled speech and controlled focus create unstoppable momentum. You don't get pulled into emotional traps, and you don't wander aimlessly. You become intentional. You conserve energy. You protect your peace, and you direct all your strength into building what matters most. That's how futures are shaped. Not by noise, not by scattered energy, but by disciplined control of your words and your focus. Whoever masters those two writes their destiny with precision. Would you like me to now weave all 10 expanded points into a single flowing transformative speech that feels like a 25-minute delivery? Everything comes down to this. Your life in 2025 will not be determined by how many people know your name, how many likes you collect, or how many arguments you win. It will be determined by how well you master yourself. Silence, focus, discipline, and detachment. These are not weaknesses, they are weapons. The world is filled with people shouting for attention, but very few who are building something worth attention. Don't be the one who performs for applause. Be the one who works in silence and lets the results roar. The future belongs to those who can subtract, who can stay still while everyone else is restless, who can detach when everyone else is drowning in emotion. Control your tongue, guard your attention, and invest your energy only when it compounds. That's how you build a life so strong, so undeniable, that no one's opinion can touch it. So focus on yourself, stay silent, move with precision, detach from what doesn't serve you, because when you do, you won't just survive another year, you'll transform it, and the world won't need you to explain. They'll see it, they'll feel it, and they'll know this is someone who mastered the one battle that matters, the battle within.